Welcome back to Final Fantasy XIV, where we are in the studio once more to do another of these crafter role quests, and we start by talking with Debroye. Perfectly awful. Greetings, madam. I'm Debroye, a student of nutritional sciences from Professor Galveroche's research laboratory at your service. If I'm not mistaken, you're the alchemist who has come to us by way of CUL's introduction, yes? That is correct. Wonderful. I would very much like to request your help with a certain... Oh my... Forgive me, my stomach is not entirely at its best. Professor Galveroche bid me try a sample of a newly created comestible, you see? The taste was... well, and the texture... Oh dear. Perhaps you should just experience it firsthand. One mouthful is worth 1,000 words and all that. Pray join me over at Maker's Meat and I can initiate you to the wonders of experimental foodstuffs. Sounds wonderful, huh? Thank you ever so much for coming. Let's have a table for you, shall we? On first inspection, it seems to be an ordinary loaf of bread, yes? Now, try a slice. Ugh. The initial flavor is an affront to the gods themselves, which gradually transitioned into a bleakly entropic aftertaste. It is quite possibly the worst thing you have ever eaten. Doesn't it taste awful? When it comes to the perfect meal, flavor is irrelevant. Professor Galveroche, I wasn't... Why, the very concept of gourmet cuisine has led to all manner of unhealthy excess. Too much salt, too much sugar, and entirely too much fatty content is employed in pursuit of satisfying this obsession with taste. The panna loaf we are laboring so hard to produce will contain everything necessary to sustain an adult body in one efficient, easily consumed serving. As I said, the perfect meal. Professor, if I might introduce... By Faliak, all this time wasted on idle chatter. If we are able to attain true perfection, then every spare moment must be spent upon our research. Your task was to improve a panna loaf's digestibility, was it not? Then let us be getting on with it. Swift, sure, efficient. You must excuse the professor's brusque manner. I know he seems eccentric, but the field of nutritional science was practically built upon the foundation of that man's research. Surely you have heard of the infamous Archon loaf. It was Professor Galveroche who proposed the recipe. In any case, I do apologize for serving you such a foul-tasting creation, but I need you to understand the gravity of the situation. Come to the last then, and I shall offer you something to cleanse your palate, while I more fully explain the issue at hand. Alright. Pray take a seat and shall be with you in a moment. I hope you still have an appetite? Oh, you work here? When I'm not studying, I actually work here in the kitchens. In that one there is a dish I devised myself, using all the knowledge I have acquired about food and flavor. Enjoy! Incredible, as if my tongue has been purified by some divine nectar. I'm so glad you liked it. What you do is you take a lobster freshly caught from the Indigo Deep, scoop out the meat and saute with butter and olive oil next to steam and white wine, but you must take care not to overcook it at this point. You then need to stuff it back into the shell, sprinkle liberally with thyme, oregano and rosemary before baking in the oven at a steady heat. Not too hot, of course, but then... Thank you, I take your word for it. My apologies. As you may have noticed, cooking is something of a passion of mine. Which brings us to my present problem, and the reason I so desperately require your assistance. It all began when agents of a firm contacted Professor Galveroche, seeking to draw upon his wisdom and the nutritional expertise of his research facility. Their request was simple. They wished him to invent a singular meal that could provide all the daily nutrients a person needs to survive. They expressed their intent to develop a food supply for emergencies, and thus the only condition imposed was that it be possible to prepare this miracle dish from ingredients readily available in Labyrinthos. For his part, the professor threw himself into the work with routine intensity, using Archon loaf as a base to devise a new type of bread, the most recent batch of which I inflicted upon you earlier. Archon loaf was never praised for its flavor to begin with, and it seemed the more nutrients you pack into the mix, the more revolting it becomes. Some volunteers have even been known to retch up the contents of their bellies after choking down a sample. Suspecting that the difficulty with digestion was to blame, Professor Galveroche asked that I work on making our meal easier to stomach, but the fact is, it simply tastes terrible. Can you imagine if there truly is some emergency we are forced to live on panna loaf alone? People would survive, of course, but gods, what I wish they hadn't. To make matters worse, the professor sees gourmet cooking as a wasteful abomination. If a firm adopts this recipe, there's a very real chance he might champion panna loaf not only as a candidate for emergency supplies, but as a new nationwide food staple. By and large, Charlians prefer meals that are easily prepared and easily consumed over more flavorful but less time-efficient culinary efforts. Scholars busy with their research will settle for sandwiches more often than not. And that ambivalent attitude toward food is exactly why I fear this horrible bread might actually be accepted into our everyday diets. As a Charlie myself, I never had much interest in fine dining. When I tried a dish at the last stand, it was as if an entirely new world had opened up before me. I soon discovered that a course in nutritional science would grant access to a vast repository of information on recipes, ingredients, and so I enrolled as a student in the Faculty of Medicine. But their approach to food preparation was purely academic, utilitarian. I reasoned that if I was to learn anything about gourmet cooking, then finding employment here would be the surest route. In fact, I was on the brink of abandoning my formal studies altogether when this request came in from a forum. As a lover of fine food, nay, as a person with functional tongue, I am compelled to prevent this crime against cuisine from entering society in its current form. Fortunately, I have the opportunity to improve the panna loaf's flavor under the guise of carrying out the professor's instructions. It will, however, be exceedingly difficult to enhance the taste without sacrificing any nutritional value, especially considering my lack of practical experience. My theory is sound, but when it comes to technical expertise... And that, my dear alchemist, is why I need you. If you do decide to help, then please, I beg you, come and see me at Maker's Meet. So this is for alchemist and culinarian, of course. And back to the studium. Ah, there you are. Can I assume this means you wish to aid me with my panna loaf predicament? No one else must suffer as I have. Then I gladly accept your assistance. Praise the scholar for bringing us this savior in our hour of need. Dear me, I just realized, how could I put you through all this and not ask your name? Desiree Klingor. Well then, Desiree, I look forward to working with you. Faculty of Medicine, Studium deliveries unlocked. Let us get straight down to business, shall we? The main problem with Panaloaf is that the recipe calls for a wide variety of wholesome substances, resulting in an extremely eclectic and subsequently extremely disgusting mixture of flavors. Now I've managed to bake a slightly less repulsive version by adjusting the balance of ingredients, but the taste remains indistinct and unsatisfying. It needs seasoning of some kind, and badly. To that end, I've put together a recipe for a sweetener using those materials which are readily available in Labyrinthos. Not in any amount which would contradict our healthy and nutritious mandate, of course. Concocting the sweetener itself, however, is a job for the experts, and so I'd like to entrust it to you. Very soon, we will have taken our first step to making the Panaloaf halfway enjoyable. And like the others, we need now... Oh, come on. We need ingredients to craft the items. Okay, I'm back. Deborah. Good. The recipe for the sweetener isn't giving you any trouble, I hope. No trouble. I'm just initially miscounted the ingredients during gathering, which led to some minor frustration for me, but no madam. Thank you, Desiree. After trying a little taste, I can safely say that you've managed to hit the sweet spot. Not overly mild and not overly rich. In making your first successful delivery, you've begun to earn Deborah's trust. With your sweetener added to the mix, I went ahead and baked a second test batch of Panaloaf. As for the results, well, I took some samples over to a last stand for the customers to try. And they said the taste was passable, which is a significant improvement over the nausea-inducing wretchedness of your original recipe, as I'd hoped a little sweetness was instrumental in tying the myriad flavors together. The key here being a little sweetness. We wouldn't want to go overboard and endanger the nutritional balance of our perfect meal. Oh, I'm told one of our regulars is at his table today, and he is a man with a decidedly particular palate. Why don't we head over and ask for his impression of our second batch? If I may, what do you think of a bread, sir? Oh, not bad, not bad. I give a flavor a passing grade, but texture however needs some attention. Texture. It is not overly noticeable with a bite-sized sample, but after one or two full slices, I fear one might begin to struggle with a somewhat dry and powdery consistency. I had not considered that. Thank you for your most valuable insight, sir. We will certainly keep it in mind for future batches. Well, that was a much-needed reminder. In my rush to enhance the flavor, I've neglected to account for changes in the texture. Introducing the sweetener must have affected the consistency of the dough. Nothing is ever simple, is it? Improving the texture will be our next task then. I'll give a problem some thought, and then we can work together on creating the solution. Debroye is pleased with your effort. She now considers you a reliable baker. Remember the texture. Debroye, my partner in panel of improvement. I've been researching the subject of texture and I think I found the cause of our powdery problem. The answer lies in the yeast. It seems the sugar content of the sweetener weakened its usual effects, preventing the dough from being fully leavened. Which means that if we can create a yeast more properly suited to sweeten the dough, then our bread will be as moist as we care to make it. Knowing, however, is not quite the same as doing. While I understand the basics, formulating yeast from scratch is rather beyond my current abilities. Once more, I must call upon you to rise to the occasion. Sorry. Good. And I also prepared that. Okay, Debroye. Yeast. Yeah, white crafter script. Now, this is some potent looking yeast. Trust me, after the hours I spent staring at such things during my studies, the quality is obvious. Thanks for all your hard work. The first test batch of Panaloaf turned out just as moist as we had hoped. And all without compromising the original integrity of its nutritional contents. It was well received by the clientele at the last stand, and even our difficult-to-please regular gave it a seal of approval. I would, however, like to hear the opinion of the, to my knowledge, foremost gourmand in Charlian. I speak of Master Dickon, the owner of the last stand. Everything I know about gourmet cooking, I owe to that man. Come, why don't we go and see what he has to say? Master Dickon, what did you think of the third batch? Aye, it's a decent loaf, alright. Certainly a far cry one you started with. The very first sample tasted like a sponge fished out of a sewer ditch. I expect you have your new friend to thank for the sudden leap in progress. I swore in vendetta against that foul-tasting evil. Oh, my dear Desiree, you are a gourmet after my own heart. A crusader for culinary quality. Be that as it may, you have yet work to do. You've worked wonders with the taste and the texture, but there is no aroma. It needs a savory scent to draw you in and set your mouth to watering. So it isn't smelly enough? The road to gastronomic excellence is never ending, it seems. But if that's what it takes to earn your full approval, then we must beg on. You remind me of old Mervyn. He was a fellow who built this place and dedicated his life to bringing fine food to Charlian. But life ended before he truly accomplished his goal, and the last stand passed on to me. Even now, gourmet cooking remains something of a foreign concept in this nation. It's the kind of place where puffed-up experts like a professor label their nutritional experiments the perfect meal. As if anything with such a revolting flavor could ever be deemed perfect. Listen, the Last Stand was named so for a reason. We are a culinary outpost, the final defense against those who would condemn Charlian diet to blandness and monotony. If you share Mervyn's dream, and I believe you do, then I implore you to carry on his legacy. After hearing what Master Dickon had to say, I'm more determined than ever to make a truly perfected panna loaf. As before, allow me some time to cogitate on the problem, and then we can see about adding a tantalizing aroma to the next batch of bread. Debroye is delighted with your efforts. She now considers you an indispensable baker. So, what do we have? Aroma is key. I think I have it, Desiree. A method to infuse the panna loaf with more alluring aroma. The key is to blend a more fragrant oil into the dough, which will not only lend our bread a lovely scent, but also improve its savory flavor. Oils and fats need to be kept to the absolute minimum, of course, so we need a variety that provides the greatest effect for the smallest amount. I have a basic idea of how a low-fat aromatic substance might be achieved, but oil requires your help with the advanced processes involved to make it. Sorry, that was terrible. It was indeed not. Fragrant oil, that will be the secret ingredient in our fourth and hopefully final test batch. Gracious me, that smells incredible. I'm actually drooling. Once we work with aroma into the bread, people will be lining up to try a slice. We've done it, Desiree. The aromatic temptation of our fourth batch has proven irresistible. The last time patrons have even started placing orders for us to bake more. And in a happy coincidence, the new oil also served to plump up our loaf until it resembles a small scrumptious cloud. I even measured the fat content just in case, and we are well within the accepted parameters. Surely now we've achieved true bakery perfection. I suppose there's only one way to find out. Let's head over to the cafe and ask for Master Dickon's verdict. Please, Master Deacon, don't leave us in suspense. No? This is unacceptable. I cannot have you baking bread that's more delicious than mine. You've outdone yourself this time. Full marks. Yes! Now that we have a master's unconditional approval, I believe that signals an end to our testing process. We make a wonderful team, Desiree. How disappointing to find you frittering away for hours like this, and here of all places. You said assigned an assignment on digestive issues to pursue the trivial art of gourmet cooking? I'll not deny it. That's exactly what I've been doing, and let me tell you why. The problem with Panalov was never a difficulty with digestion. It was the awful taste that was making people feel ill. Lest you believe our efforts in vain, when I ask that you try a sample of our 4th test batch, I think you'll find the flavor much improved. Nay, I have no interest in your mundane concerns over flavor. The very subject sickens me. What I will do, however, is analyze the nutritional value of your much improved Panalov. We shall see if it even meets the criteria for a proper meal substitute. I must inform you that your 4th test batch is a failure. It is sorely lacking in ascorbic acid, a vital nutrition which any prospective meal replacement must contain. Deficient levels of ascorbic acid lead to outbreak of scurvy. It is an illness which often afflicted sailors on long sea voyages and can also be prevalent in times of famine and hardship. Citrus fruits are an effective measure to combat scurvy, but one cannot always rely on a fresh supply of oranges or lemons. As such, the perfect meal of choice is one which readily fulfills that role. I've already succeeded in adding this nutrient to my original Panalov, and am prepared to make my submission to the forum. But the acid, how did you... You expect me to reveal my techniques to one who so blatantly disregarded my instructions? I'm sorry, Miss Debroye, but you are hereby relieved from your current duty. So be it. I will perfect our version of Panalov without your assistance and submit the recipe as a contender to your own. A contest, then. And may the best bread win. However, in the event that your recipe fails to garner the forum's favor, I will see you disciplined for the misuse of research funding. Your punishment will be expulsion from my research facility, nay, from the studium itself. Professor Galveroche, if you're so intent on ruining my employee's future, then I think I'm entitled to a question or two. From what old Mervyn told me, the two of you were once classmates. More than that, you were good friends, so I'd like to understand, why do you hold so much hate for a thing he held so dear? Mervyn was an exceptional student, but he threw away his academic career for the love of a well-made meal. This cafe he built, the incessant taste testing, not more than excuses to indulge in course after course of gourmet food and drink. It was a reckless pursuit of a passion which sent him to an early grave. Your fine dining is a curse. It befuddled the mind of a brilliant young man, slew him as surely as any slow-acting poison. Now, if you have nothing further to say, I must return to my research. Swift, sure, efficient. I had no idea the Professor and Mervyn were ever acquainted, let alone classmates and friends. At least now I understand why my actions upset him so. But you cannot give up. For the sake of Charlie and Bellies, you must help me win the forum's minds. Our crusade continues. Thank you, Desiree. I shall figure out this issue with ascorbic acid, and then we can start on test batch number 5. Although, I think it's time we had a proper name for our panaloaf. I nominate Mervyn Bread in honor of our last stand's founder. Let's get the oven heated up and show the professor what we and our loaves are made of. Debroye is overjoyed with her efforts. She now considers you an irreplaceable baker. Good, but I make a cut here and will continue this next time. Until then, I'm Mace and don't get lost.